consistent I've been. I know I am. Let's get into it, guys. We are here for my 5th book review of the year. Hey, I'm so excited, especially because this book is part of one of my favorite series ever. One of my favorite magical universes ever. So I am excited, but because it is one of my favorites, then this means that this review will probably be more of a rant and a jumbled rant than a coherent review. You can already tell that I'm not gonna make any sense because look at how I am moving my hands. I'm not even sure I'm moving like a human being anymore. I can feel the bones of my body cracking about. But we're gonna do our best because the 5th book, which I read this year, is King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. Part of the Grishaverse. Guys, I don't think anyone understands how much I love the Grishaverse. And that being said, my favorite duology is the Six of Crows duology. I haven't finished King of Scars duology, but I did read this. And yeah, Six of Crows is still my favorite. But let's get into it. And I had to write some notes as always, and this will really help today be at least semi-coherent. And I ask for forgiveness now because yeah, guys, this is not going to be okay for you. Okay, for those of you who don't know what the Grishaverse is, or you haven't read the Grishaverse, then I probably would implore you to maybe go and read them because it is an established universe, and so parts of the first trilogy and the Six Crows duology were mentioned in this book, and so will be dropped and mentioned here, most likely, to be honest. Maybe not, but there's a possibility. So I recommend you go read it, and also because it's a great universe, so go read it. The first series, well, the first part of the Grishaverse was the Shadow and Bone trilogy, which focuses on this girl named Alina, who lives in this universe, magical universe, where there's this like fold. So it's like this wall of darkness that has been there for a millennia, where you have to cross it to get to certain countries and certain places in the country, and in that place called the Fold is just a bunch of demonic creatures who just are out for blood and kill anyone who crosses. But you have to cross it to get to a bunch of places, so it's really hard. And the first trilogy focuses on bringing down that fold, and also the villain who makes their appearance in the first book has to be taken down. So not only does the fold need to be brought down so that light can be restored to Ravka, one of the countries on the map where the main story is based, but also the villain who is really just out to continue the darkness that's roaming about. Now, the main character of this book first appeared in the second book of that first trilogy. The next kind of series in the Grishaverse is the Six of Crows duology. It doesn't really have much bearing on this book at all, but it is my favorite. I just think it's amazing. And they were, a few characters were mentioned here and there, but literally in passing, like they have no standing here. It's still the best series in the Grishaverse, the Six of Crows duology. I stand by that. No one can tell me different. But this is definitely giving it a run for its money. I haven't finished the second book in this duology, the King of Scars duology, but when I tell you, it's giving it its run for its money. So, King of Scars focuses on Nikolai Lamsov, who was the character who was introduced in the second book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. He is the prince, or now king, of Ravka. He was the prince of Ravka. He's now the king of Ravka. And when they were fighting off the main villain in the Six of Crows, in the Shadow and Bone trilogy, he was infected with like this darkness, which made him into like this creature that's kind of like the creature that was in the folds. It was like this demonic creature who had this insane bloodlust and really just wanted to kill and maim everything in its path. When the battle was won in the first trilogy, he was released of this darkness and he became a human again. Well, in this book, we see that the darkness, for some reason, has awoken in him again. It wasn't fully eradicated from him. Some of the darkness still remained, and it's awoken in him. And so every now and then, in the middle of the night, he transformed into this mindless creature, and he goes out searching for something to kill. Yeah. And after the first trilogy, the Shadow and Bone trilogy, he became king. And he's really just trying to restore prosperity to their country, Ravka. And that takes a lot, that takes a lot of trade. It takes a lot of, diplomacy, which he does have, takes a lot of cunning, which he does have as well. But then they are literally in the middle, surrounded by enemies, potential allies as well. But they're surrounded by the Shu, by the Fiadins. Like I said, if you haven't read the books, you need to read them because you won't understand what I'm saying. But they're surrounded, and this book is really about, one, him trying to find a cure for the monster that's within him, and two, trying to make allies because it seems that war is brooding with Ravka and some of the countries that are surrounding them. So it's really just him, his close party, who have become like a found family for him, trying to do all of this. So his close party consists of Zoya from the first trilogy, Jenya, also from the first trilogy, David from the first trilogy, and of course, Tolia and Tamar, the twins. Those are the people in his inner circle. And guys, this book, like every book in the Grishaverse, is amazing. So let's get into it. I've spent so much with introductions and have not a single review, but I told you it was going to be more of a rant than anything else. First thing I should actually mention is that this is the third book that I started this year, but it's the fifth book that I finished because it was so intense that I had to take a break. Yeah, so a lot was happening. It was really, really high stakes, which is a really amazing part of like the Grishaverse. Everything is high stakes. Like honestly, you don't know where you're going to go. First and foremost, one thing that they do in the Grishaverse is that the scene is set, or the book is set with a scene that is completely, which is relevant but completely irrelevant at the same time. So it's with a character who doesn't have much bearing. Well, in this book, the book starts out with a chapter with a character that literally never appears ever again. But it does well to set the scene of what we're getting into. So literally the first scene is just like, okay, this creature is a mindless creature who would attack anyone, even a child. So it's showing us kind of the how ferocious and vicious the creature is, how mindless it is, because Nikolai, the guy that we know and love, would never ever do that. Now, and I said this before, I think I mentioned it with the Six of Crows duology, very few authors can do POV the way that Leigh Bardugo has done it. Like I said, I've not read a book with a multiple POV, so like there are several books that do like two or multiple viewpoints. But I think very few can do it and excel at it the way that Leigh Bardugo does it. I think it's so amazing the way that each of these characters, each of these viewpoints that we're delving into has such an amazing personality. As in, like, each of these characters has an established background. Their motive has an established family. Like, everything about them is like it took 10 years to create each character. You can tell that so much work has been put into making these characters like their own people. Like none of them have any similarities to one another, and the similarities that they have is still distinct. I'm just like, very few authors can write POV the way Leigh Bardugo writes, and she continues it in King of Scars. Every single point of view is so good. And like it's consistent throughout the series, like throughout the first trilogy and the Six of Crows duology. Like the characters remain consistent. It's very easy for some characters to probably blend in. I can imagine it's very easy for them to kind of just like end up with the same voice, have the same opinions. But I'm just like, no, the Zoya that we met in the first trilogy and in the and a bit in the Six of Crows duology is the same Zoya. We can see like she has the same attitude, she has the same confidence. But then there's a vulnerability that is introduced to us in this book. And that's what I love about this book as well, about all the books. We see the character development between like Zoya and Nikolai, because they're the two main point of views that we explore in King of Scars. There's so much growth, the emotions that we get to explore and the histories that we learn. I'm like, finally we get to see more of Zoya. We get to know more of who she is. And I'm just reading and I'm just like, wow, we understand, and like things that were mentioned in like the first initial trilogy, we get an explanation now, years later, in a series, like all the way later. Guys, The way things are wrapping up between like the characters and the stories in the Grishaverse, I love how everything remains connected no matter what, you know. And the fact that obviously, like I said before, that they like characters from Six of Crows and the original trilogy are mentioned and brought you know, into the story, perfect. Because I'm just like, we're not gonna act like they don't still exist. We're not gonna act like what happened to them didn't happen. Yes, and oh, we have Nina from the Six of Crows duology. She has she is the third voice in the King of Scars book. And it's good to see, because what is great about this story is that Nikolai and Zoya, they are on one side of this book. Like, they have their story that they're working out, but Nina is working a whole different story. But then it relates to the overall mission and the overall goal of Nikolai and what he's working towards for Ravka. Like, all these stories are melding together as one. And yes, I'm just like, yes, this is how we're doing it, guys. You can tell how excited I am because it's just so good. Also, I love, like I said, the Grishaverse is established, but with every book that we read, we learn more of like different places. Like in this book, we're learning more of Fjerda, and then we also get introduced to a whole new kind of setting that was kind of like hidden in the fold. We get introduced to new characters. We get more context to some of the legends that even some characters in the book don't have context to. So it's so fun to see. And then for the characters who don't make too much of an appearance, the appearances that they make are still meaningful, like Zhenya and David and Tolia and Tamar. At one point, you know, they're kind of left behind, I would say. Not intentionally, but then Nikolai and Zoya get separated from the crew, let's say. But then we still go back to them and see how they're dealing, you know, what they're doing behind the scenes. And the little moments between them, especially Zhenya and David, the little moments between them two, I live for. I live for those moments. Because it's just, it's the little things that make a book really kind of pull your heart out and just have it in its grip. You know, the little moments between characters, you know, the little comments and side notes. Amazing. Also, Nina's storyline, like I said, her storyline is completely different. Completely different to the rest. Very different to the rest. So that was that was a great part of the story, because I'm just like, this is so far off from what is going on. And it's so fun. We get to see this character who we grew to love in Six of Crows. We get to see her on a whole mission of her own. We get to see her process what happened to her in the Six of Crows duology, no spoilers. And we get to see her grow. We get to see her be like this boss babe who is really just coming into her own, into some new powers that she gathered, that she had to accept, whether she likes it or not. And I'm just loving it. Every single character is going through their own journey. Every single character is going through their own adventure, whether they want to be on that adventure or not. And it's making for such an amazing story. The way that this plot is bouncing, has to balance, obviously, the different characters and their different stories, is amazing. Because, and this is what really had me in my chest beating, the pace. The pace had me like this. And even now, as I'm like recounting all of it, I'm just remembering everything that occurred. And I'm just like, wow, how did I survive? That's how high stakes and how fast paced this plot was. But it was so beautifully done. Like, I know I use that phrase a lot. Beautifully done, wonderfully done, amazingly done, fantastically done. Like that, that's how great it was. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. No question about it. 5 stars. What's also really cool is like and I know this isn't the only book to do it, but I feel like this is one of those books where it sticks out to me more. The mix of first person and third person narration. I was like, that's cute. That works. And I mentioned it already, but character development went through the roof. And the roller coaster of emotions that we go through is a bit too much. I felt like sometimes the actual car was going to fly off the tracks of the roller coaster of emotions, because I'm just like, this is so much. But it happened as we like watch and witness old relationships deepen and new relationships form. And I think to be able to continuously introduce us to new characters, to able to continue form new relationships while still focusing on old ones. Thank you. Now, there's a character that I almost forgot, but that he played a pivotal role in this book. Isaac. It's not that I forgot him, but like he's new. He's a new character, but he has his own point of view in this book. So yeah, he is new. He played a part in the Rovkin War in the first trilogy. But he is new to having his own point of view. And to see him, it was like he was very aware. It's not like he was very aware that he's new. He wasn't in this close circle of like confidants that Nikolai has, or even he doesn't have any relationship with Nina. He's not on that side of the story. So he's very aware of like his greenness, of how, oh my goodness, am I pushing too far? Like, am I going past what, this is way past like my my pay. It's like me saying, okay guys, I'm not getting paid enough for this. This has nothing to do with me. That was Isaac, but he played a really pivotal role, and it was just good to see kind of like him bumbling around and really just being the normal out of this group of chaotic people that we're around. So it was that refreshing part of the storyline, like, oh my goodness, someone who isn't crazy, because the rest of them are off their rockers in such an amazing way. But guys, this duology starts off with a bang. Like I said already, 5 stars. Like, there's no question. We're not even gonna debate it. 5 stars. And I never actually thought that I would like Zoya, but I'm liking her. Characters who, have this hard exterior, I'm just like, you know what, I know you guys have a past, but it's no excuse for how you guys are so disrespectful sometimes and rude. But then we get through this book, and I'm just like, no, her reasons are valid. And I don't want to hear Pim about it, okay? And like I said, Zoya is one of the people who actually goes through like the character development. She's one of the people who has the most growth. And I'm really excited to see her, Nikolai, and even maybe Jenya and David. Hopefully they get POV in the next book. I'm just excited for Nikolai and Zoya to actually grow a bit more. And I want them to be honest with themselves as well. If you read the book, you'll know what I mean. Like, they need to be honest with themselves, okay? I'm tired of people not being honest with themselves. But yeah, this book is amazing. I've already started the second book, the second part of the duology, Rule of Wolves. I stopped almost immediately because the fast pace was really just panicking me. I couldn't do it. My anxiety was through the roof. And I'm always on edge for these characters. I'm always panicked for them because they're just taking so much on. And you see that in the book. The story, with every part of the story, they're all taking so much on, putting their lives at risk at every second, every moment. And I don't know if I can take it, but honestly, if you haven't read the Grishaverse, get into it, okay? Don't do this to yourself. Don't deprive yourself of such amazing characters. I won't lie. The initial trilogy, the Shadow and Bone trilogy, it is my least favorite. I'm sorry, especially after reading this. This has surpassed it, and as you all know, I definitely rank Six of Crows higher than it. So, but it's like basically the foundation of the Grishaverse. So you have to get through it before you go to anyone else. And I'm not saying that the trilogy is bad. The trilogy is good. Like, honestly, great trilogy. I'm just saying it's my least favorite out of all of them because I think these are better because I love these characters a bit more. So, yeah, you have to get through that initial trilogy to start experiencing all the deliciousness of the characters like Nikolai and Zoya in this book. And let me just make a little note. Kaz in the Six of Crows duology. You need to read the first trilogy. But King of Scars, guys. The scars that have formed from the Grishaverse are in this book and in my heart. I'm feeling for them. I'm feeling for each and every single one of them. I am. All the emotions that they go through, I'm feeling all of it. And I'm processing. And I'm finally coming down. Okay. I'm sorry that this ended up being more of a rant than a review. But when it comes to series like this that I've fallen head over heels in love with, I don't think that can be avoided. But as you can tell from my excitement, it's that good. So make sure you pick it up. It will be good. And make sure you tune in for my next review. It will not be Rule of Wolves because I've not completed that yet. But I have still been reading great books. So definitely tune in. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I shall see you next time.